Go to chapter 23, measuring inflation and unemployment. So we're going to start with inflation. What is inflation? Inflation is a persistent rise in the general price level of a given economy. That's what inflation is. It's a persistent rise in the price of goods and services in a given economy. So if price of goods or services continue to increase over time in a country, that is inflation. Clear? Then we have deflation, which is the opposite of inflation. That's a persistent general price fall. A persistent fall in general price level of a given economy. That is deflation. Clear? Then we have disinflation. For disinflation, it simply means a fall in the rate of inflation. There's inflation rate, right? So if today the inflation rate is 5, it starts falling to 4.7, 4.8. That is disinflation, a fall in the rate of inflation. It's not the same as deflation. Deflation is a general fall in the price level. But for disinflation, it means the inflation rate is reducing. Do you understand disinflation here? Done. Then we have hyperinflation. We call it hyperinflation because it simply means a situation where the inflation level is very high. Hyperinflation. Clear? Mm-hmm. So that takes us to, then we go up, we have reflation. For reflation, it simply means a rise in the GDP following recession. There's recession, which is a fall in economic growth, or a decline in economic growth, a decline in economic activity for 2 consecutive quarters. That is recession. So if after recession the GDP of a country increases, we call it reflation. You get the point here? There's recession. As soon as recession is done, then the country's GDP starts increasing. We call it reflation. Do you understand what reflation is now? Then we have stagflation. For stagflation, is a situation where inflation is rising during recession. There's recession, which is economic decline. But during that recession, there's inflation at that time, which is not expected. It is called stagflation. Do you understand what stagflation is now?
Yes.
Stagflation means there's inflation during recession. Mm-hmm. Reflation means there's a rise in GDP after a recession. Any question about that?
No.
So we'll go on to measuring inflation using the CPI, Consumer Price Index. So for the Consumer Price Index, it is used to measure the price level and inflation rate. So we use Consumer Price Index to measure inflation and the price level. So what was the price of this pen last year compared to the price this year? That is what Consumer Price Index does. Do you get my point here? So I wrote, the CPI measures how much more money a typical household needs to buy the same basket of goods. Basket of goods are those things we need to buy. Our purchasing parity, we talked about it. So basket of goods at the same time the previous year. So we have our basket of goods this year. How much was it last year compared to what it is this year? That is, so how much more do we need to spend this year compared to last year for the same basket of goods? That is what Consumer Price Index does. So if we're now at the point of finding out how much more we need to buy, to spend for the same goods of last year, that is the inflation rate. Do you understand?
Yes.
So this year, this is what we bought pen this year. That's our basket of goods. So how the quantity we bought this year compared to the quantity we bought last year, what is the difference? How much do we have to spend this year compared to the previous year? That is the rate of inflation. Do you understand? Mm-hmm. That is what Consumer Price Index measures. Do you get the point here? Mm-hmm. You can have that. So the formula for CPI is C base T over C base O multiplied by 100. C base T over C base O multiplied by 100. That is how to measure. That's chapter 23, you know. That's how to measure Consumer Price Index. So our C base T, our CPI is the Consumer Price Index in the current period for this year. Consumer Price Index for this year, which is CPIT, equals to CT, which is cost of market basket in this year. Then we have our CO, which is cost of market basket in the current period. And we have our CT, which is cost of market basket in the current period, the cost now. Then our CO is the cost of market basket in the base period. Do you understand? The previous period. So it is CPI equals CT over CO multiplied by 100. That's how you measure the Consumer Price Index of this present period. Then what are the problems we have when we measure consumer